Good morning, boys and girls. Welcome to the disaster zone, better known as the eastern wing of the stink bug works. Well, I've made some tuck and roll. It's not the best, but you know what? It's a model boat. It's good enough. Sorry while I knock you guys around. Anyway, I've always said that I need to bend this guy's arms, and I never knew what his seating position was going to be. Well, here's his seating position. Now, he's a pirate. He's not going to sit up straight and such. He's going to kind of slouch over and be cool. You know, he's going to be cool. But I still need to bend his arm a little bit down to where his elbow is kind of like right here on this, what would you call this part of the boat. And his steering wheel arm may need to come down just a little bit. I don't think I'm going to have the steering wheel that high. One of the problems I'm thinking about now is the instrument panel. Because I have to dive this thing in and make it curve to go in, I want to attach the instrument panel to the interior so that Jack here can have a hold of the steering wheel and I don't have to do fancy stuff. Although I could have Jack holding the steering wheel, have the instrument panel in here, and when I put it in, engage the steering wheel, but that's kind of a pain in the butt. It'd be nice to have the whole thing drop in as a unit. So what I was considering, you think I've gone crazy already? What I was considering is, now the instrument panel is going to mount here on this central table. We won't call it the motor cover. We'll call it the central table. So the instrument panel is going to mount here on the central table. And what I was thinking of doing is having it mounted with torsion springs. Now, when you think of a spring, you normally think of a compression spring like in your car or a ballpoint pen. That's a compression spring. Then there's a tension spring. That's kind of like what you use to close your gate or close something, that it pulls it back together. There's also a torsion spring where, one end stays here and the other end rotates. You see that on doors and such. Specifically, and here's where I'm going, and I need to dig through my pile of parts. Model airplane aileron hinge pins. I could have this dashboard hinged, and I'm not sure which way it would probably be better to fold back, but then I run into a problem with the steering wheel. If it folded forward, I could make the shaft work. But let's go back. So it could fold back as this thing went in, and then as it went in, it would pop up. But then to get it out, I'd have to have some way of pulling this thing. See, that just doesn't work. If it went in like this, but then when it pops up, there's only so much space there. I'd have to do some measuring and some ciphering to see if it'll work, but I'll come up with something. You know me. I'll come up with something. So I got a radiator hose for my engine. Yeah, see, I got a radiator hose for it, and I'm going to dump the radiator hose into the water outlet right here. Do you see it? Don't you see it? There's a water outlet right there. You just don't see it yet. So I'm plugging away. The seat. I kind of left you for a couple of days when I was wondering, what am I going to use to make that seat? And I'm thinking and I'm thinking and I'm thinking. And meanwhile, I had ordered some bottles for my airbrushes so that I could have just a bottle of paint if I'm doing something big rather than just the little color cup. Have a bottle that I can just shoot. Anyway, I ordered some bottles and they came wrapped in this cardboard, and I'm pulling this cardboard off and I'm about ready to throw it in the trash, and I'm looking at it and going, wait a minute. This is the stuff they make dollhouse furniture out of. Hello, make your seats out of this stuff. And the nice thing is you can curve it, you can put more of a curve in it. You know, it's somewhat pliable and will kind of stay where you put it. And, you know, it's just cardboard, but it remains dimensionally sound. You know, it's flexible and cracking, but you're covering it with fabric. Who cares, right? So it's the perfect media. So I cut out a back, and then I cut out 2 or 3 little strips to go on the edge here. And then for the, so that formed this part of it. And I'm not really totally thrilled with the fit I got in my rolls where they butt up against the tuck, if you get my drift. But you know what? It's a model boat. It's good enough. So what I did for the rolls was I took coffee stirrers. What a time-consuming pain in the ass that was. And I rubber cemented fabric to them. I figured out the width that would give one wrap. And then you know how any glue is it isn't 100% effective. And as you try to wrap it down, the very end doesn't stick. It kind of peels up just a little bit because, you know, it's under a load. But all in all, it's not bad. You know, from 5 feet away, it's okay. You know, I'm looking at it a quarter of an inch away, and I see every flaw and defect, and each one irritates me, and each one gets that's good enough. So I see all that stuff, and now I have to do it all over again. Let me tell you something. Of all the boats I've ever made, this was probably, I need to tuck that in. See, it's like that. This was probably one of the most challenging. Although, you know what? It will also cause me to go down in history. Hey, you guys remember that boat that Dr. Jet made? Yeah, he's nuts. Yeah. Okay, boys and girls, there you go. Just a quick update. Yeah, I got my battery in, so I got my terminals. I need to paint my terminals. And then, oh, you're going to love this. But I've got the red Tefsel motor wire I use for wiring up the airplanes, the full-size ones. That stuff keeps its shape, so I'm going to use that as the lead from the battery over to the starter. And then I've got I've got some little it was supposed to be braided stainless line, but you take the tube out of it and you flatten it, and guess what? It's ground cable. So I'll run a ground cable. Actually, what I should do is run a ground cable to the motor mount. Since it happens to be just right there, I could run the ground cable to the motor mount. But I don't like the long run for the starter wire. I'll run the starter wire here, and I'll ground the motor somewhere up front here. There's a bolt hole. Oh, there's some bolt holes right there. That's the fuel pump cover. I'll bolt it to the fuel pump cover. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Now, isn't that frightening? Isn't that frightening? I never looked at that before. In fact, it's not quite the right shape, but I know enough about small block Chevys to know that that's a fuel pump cover. Oh yeah, I'll put a little electric fuel pump in here, and I'll see if I can run fuel lines up to the carburetors. That's going to be a challenge. And then I'm not going to do carburetor linkage at this time. That's going to require special thought. And so I can always put that in later because it'll be up high and relatively easy to access once everything's all bolted together. You know, the important thing is, and what I've been waiting for is this darned radiator hose, because I've got the Gazinta right here, and there'll be a little hose that goes from there and disappears into here somewhere. And that'll be your inlet. So there you go, boys and girls. I think I've covered enough. Until next time, jet out.